Welcome to Game On Silicon Valley. This show is powered by the Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce, the regional chamber where business, innovation, and community come together to build our future for this region.
For over a century, the Chamber has been the center of Silicon Valley's growth. And with the world's biggest events being hosted in our backyard, they're making sure Silicon Valley doesn't just show up. We lead, we shine, and we help create a thriving Silicon Valley for all.
I'm Jan Eric Nordmo, co-host and co-chair of the Games Committee, and sitting next to me is the handsomest gentleman of the game, Chris Dangerfield.
Yeah, I'm Chris Dangerfield. I've been involved in professional soccer since the age of 17, and I've been involved with the Earthquake locally for, well, maybe 20 years now. And not only as a player, but also proudly a member of the Hall of Fame, and also very much involved with their broadcasts on CB and NBC Sports Network for many, many years. And today we're joined by our first guest of the day, and that would be Sid El Saghir, the co-founder and CEO of Sportlingo. Welcome, Sid.
Chris, thank you for having me. John Eric, thank you. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Sid, absolutely. We are really delighted to have you here. Very exciting. Chris, thinking about what you just said of your play experience, I just wanted to add into that I used to watch him play, and I used to watch from the fence, a little hole in the fence because I was poor, I couldn't get into the games, but it was just so exciting to watch you play. I have to share that with you, and always an inspiration to me, and that's perhaps why I stayed in soccer all these years.
Well, thank you for that. Let's talk about Sid for a little while and Sportlingo. So, Sid, tell us a little bit about Sportlingo, if you could, and what inspired you to build this platform that focused on improving sports IQ for players and coaches.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, so wow, first off, we are in episode 2, so this is very early in the podcast journey. I just want to say one of my most favorite recommendations I've ever heard when you're starting out a new podcast. This is for the listeners, just like a quick plug. Listen to the podcast on 1.5x speed, and it might help. The only thing I might worry about is Chris's jokes might not be as funny on high speed. But okay, let's get into it.
Is that
Sportlingo,
because of his
Sportlingo.
accent?
You can just say my jokes aren't very funny at the end of the day.
But if you go plus 1.5 speed, you go right through them. You don't have to listen to them.
It's true. It's true.
I
All
was
right,
quick.
guys.
I
All
wasn't
right.
quick.
So let me answer the question. Let me answer the question that Chris asked. All right. So Sportlingo, what we do? Yes, we're trying to increase the sports IQ of players and coaches. Really, we're trying to be the Duolingo of sports. We're trying to gamify learning. So if you think um, Duolingo, they took a lot of people, they didn't really like learning languages very much. And then Duolingo gamified it. They kind of turned learning into a video game. So basically what we're doing, we're trying to do the same thing for sports. So we're trying to give, short quizzes, XP, badges, leaderboards. And really the main idea here is in the US especially, there's kind of a problem with soccer education in the sense that it isn't really mainstream. So if you think in Europe, soccer is very mainstream. It's the top sport, right? So parents, they know soccer. They talk about soccer to their kids. Soccer is always on the TV. So the kids, they grow up in this soccer culture. But in the US, we don't really have that luxury. So basically the coaches, they get all of these kids with a pretty low baseline soccer IQ. These kids, they don't really know a lot. And there's only so much that a coach can teach during practice. You can't overwhelm the kids during practice. So really coaches, they should try to inspire their kids to learn outside of practice. And really, I think the main idea, what we're trying to do is, we're trying to develop better athletes, and we're also trying to decrease the youth sports dropout rate.
Yeah, and Sid, we've had this discussion before. The dropout rate is significant. We lose a tremendous amount of athletes, especially at the age 12. And you mentioned also, and we've talked about this, the IQ of the player is one thing, but also the IQ of the coach too. And can you share a little bit about what your platform brings? Why should club directors, why should parents, why should coaches want to investigate sport lingo and perhaps adopt it for their environment? What are your thoughts there?
Yes, that's a good question. Okay, so my first answer to this is
I had
I
one.
I think it's in the best interest of all people to care about this problem because the okay, so 70% of kids are quitting youth sports by the age of 13 in the US. And 80% of the kids who quit stop all forms of exercise after quitting. So, from a societal perspective, there's a really big health issue because physical inactivity in the US costs our healthcare system over $117 billion per year. So, aside from like the societal things, if we narrow in on kind of like, the coaches and the club directors, why should they care? Really, there's two main reasons. One is late bloomers. So basically, a lot of kids, their bodies, they grow a lot in their teenage years. So if we're telling kids, either you're on the track for an elite level or not by the age of, 10, 11, 12, it's too early because some of these kids, if you keep them in the game long enough, you keep them liking the game, you keep them wanting to keep playing, they'll develop into a lot better players once they hit their growth spurts later on in their teenage years. And then the other reason club directors should care is the financial gains that can come of it. I mean, parents want to spend money on their kids being in sports. Parents spend more money on sports than anything else for their kids. It's the highest spend segment because they know about the health benefits and the life lessons that kids can learn from sports. So if we're, if coaches, club directors, if we're kind of creating the system that's leading to a lot of churn, it isn't in our best financial interests. Like these club directors, they should be trying to keep their kids in it. So that way, the performance improves, the kids improve, and hopefully, U.S. soccer, that's what we're trying to do, right? We need to improve U.S. soccer. We have the World Cup coming up, and our team doesn't look the greatest this year. So, we got to keep more kids in the game, more kids playing.
Well, I'm going to actually argue with you on the US team in a second, but like, okay, so I'm all over this because I'm a big believer that the youth of today has to do a little bit more outside of the structured trainings that are being put on. If you're a good player, you end up playing in academies, you're training 4 nights a week, everything's organized for you. Growing up in England, as I did, you had to find your own way to progress in the game. Things weren't organized the way they over here with pay to play and also the clubs and the academies, etc. So anytime there's something that a kid can work on his own, a boy or a girl can work on their own, after trainings, after school, working on things to try and improve themselves. I'm a big proponent of that. And your AI layer, which is obviously where we bring in the sort of the merger of technology and sports, and in this particular game, this particular segment, talking about AI and soccer. So you've got the AI aspect to this, and it helps athletes learn and stay engaged in the sport. I mean, how does that actually look in practice?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, each coach kind of has their own unique way of wanting to coach the game. Even clubs, clubs they have a game idea. They have a way that they like to, have the team learn. And basically what coaches and clubs can do is they upload their game idea into our AI, and then our AI creates customized lessons. So it helps pull videos, it helps, structure quiz questions, it helps give practice plans. So it gives the coaches, and really what it's doing is it's helping the coaches save time. So the coaches, they can do this on their own, they can manually do it. But if they can use our AI and then the AI does it a lot faster, it saves them a lot of time so they can work on other high impact things to help their team improve.
So with this product that you have, you are literally taking the game idea of the club. Perhaps it doesn't have an idea. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you're taking that idea and you're putting it in the hands of the players, in the feet to some degree, and they're able to drive home from training session and look at the lesson planning that perhaps the coach has already created just to kind of reinforce what they did physically on the field. So now they're adding a little bit more cognitive layer. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So the players, they learn better, right? The thing about learning is if you teach a kid something one time, a lot of times they won't remember it. It takes the coach, it takes a lot of repetition to actually learn a concept. And something interesting that we've been hearing from coaches who have been using it, they give these little quizzes to their players, and then they tell me that they're surprised at some of the questions that the kids are getting wrong because the coach says, wait, hold on, I taught this during practice and the kids aren't remembering it. So you really, it's this reinforcement thing where the more times you learn, the more times you practice. And if you think about, Duolingo, when you're learning a new word on Duolingo, they ask you the question multiple times because it's this repetitive way of learning. So yeah. So we're trying to improve the IQ through repetitive learning.
And you and I have talked, and I think that was the main focus was on the player, but we've also talked to now that there's a layering of helping the coach understand. Can you lean into that a little bit more and help us understand what's the coach learning from this? How is the club enhancing the coach's ability as a coaching educator? Right, we're always looking for more tools to help develop the coaches. Can you lean a little bit more and share your insight on your coach education, your coach IQ platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually, we started out as player IQ, and after talking to club directors, they would tell me, I want the coaches to learn as well. So, it's like you're saying. So basically, we started working on the coach IQ part of it. So now what we have is, it's similar where you can upload your game idea, you can upload what you want your coaches to learn, and then our AI creates learning modules for your coaches to work on. And what club directors can do, they can create their own certification. So basically, each club can have their own unique certification for what they want their coaches to learn. And then that way there's more consistency across the club because a lot of times the coaches, they'll just get a PDF and then they'll go off on their own. They'll do whatever, and then the club director has no idea if the coaches are actually implementing. They don't know what they retained. So this is kind of a way for the club directors to know, like, okay, did the coach actually go through these modules? Did they answer the quiz questions? Do they know our philosophy? Do they know how we like to teach the game? How we want our players to play? So it's an innovative way for the club directors to help their coaches improve.
So you may be aware that you mentioned Duolingo a couple of times, and you probably are aware of this story. But uh, in recent times, one of the most popular players on the Earthquakes was Tommy Thompson, and Tommy basically was playing for Matias Almeida at the time with the Earthquakes, and Matias and his staff all fluent Spanish speakers, and so a lot of the players were as well. So Tommy decided on his own that one way he could try and get an advantage was to understand what the coaches were talking about and the other players were talking about on a regular basis. And he used Duolingo to teach himself Spanish. And he did it very quickly and very successfully to his own benefit. So that my point is the more you use these tools, the more you use these platforms, there's going to be a benefit for you. But overall, I guess my final question, Sid, is that the Silicon Valley has this technology and AI is obviously at the forefront of that technology. How do you think that's going to affect this particular game globally going forward?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I love that example of, using AI to improve the knowledge. Um, Really, it's a lot of incremental improvements, right? You're not just going to, use AI and automatically become a, elite soccer player, but it can be one of those tools. Like our technology, Sportlingo, can be one of the tools that helps you improve. There's the cognitive part of the game, which is what we're trying to approach, but then there's also playing, right? So I'm not saying all you need to do is, play Sportlingo and you'll become an elite athlete. No, but it's yeah, it's part of it, right? So you answer the quiz questions, you learn, you improve, and really a lot of it is you gain more confidence. The sport is more fun when you have a deeper understanding of the nuances of the intellectual parts of the game. So basically, and it's really fun. So I was talking about earlier about the youth sports dropout rate. It's a fun thing. A lot of kids, they quit because it isn't fun. So if we can help kids, gain more confidence, they'll have more fun on the soccer field. They'll want to keep playing, and hopefully the U.S. soccer team will become better at soccer.
Well, as Chris said, I think that we may have some surprises, so don't count us out yet, Sid. That being said, I do recognize that you are not only developing for the athlete, the player, not just soccer, multiple sports, not just the coach. You're also helping develop a structure for the clubs, but also the parents. And so, thinking about the parents, the platform, how does that keep them engaged? How does that support the learning for the players? You've touched on fun. It's fun. It's developmental, and certainly parents play a picture in this. What are the parents doing? What do you foresee the evolution of your platform toward the parents?
Yeah, so in the long run, we also want to introduce a sort of like a parent IQ layer to our platform. Right now, what the parents can do is, they can see the results of their kids. They can see what their kids are working on. And actually, the parents who have been using this, they like it. They think it's fun because a lot of times they send their kid off to soccer practice and then they come back. How was practice? It was fun. But now the parents, they can actually kind of see, they can have some insights on what the kids are learning. And this can also help with parent IQ of the game, because now all of a sudden, if parents are kind of learning some of this soccer terminology, we kind of, we turn more into the European countries where, the parents are talking to their kids about soccer there. It's something that, they know the lingo, they know what's going on in the sport. And then, it's kind of, it creates a connection between, the parent and the kid. So now they have something to bond over. And again, hopefully it becomes more fun for the kid, because all of a sudden, if the parent knows soccer, the kid knows soccer, the coach knows soccer, everyone's soccer IQ is improving.
So we got the World Cup coming here in less than 50 days. How can your platform help fans? Is there a possibility for a time, maybe not for this World Cup, but for a future World Cup? How can it help the parent become more knowledgeable of the game and really connect their young athletes to the big game here, the FIFA 2026 World Cup?
Yeah, it can actually help with this World Cup. You can download our app right now. It's on iOS App Store, it's on the Google Play Store, and there's soccer modules in there. So you can answer a bunch of questions about soccer, you can watch videos. We even have an Ask AI feature. So if you have any questions about soccer, about the World Cup, about the teams who are playing, you can ask our AI, you can type the questions, you can even talk to our AI, and it'll respond. And it's fun. It's a fun little way to learn about soccer, and you'll sound smart. You'll sound smart at your soccer watch parties, wherever you watch the World Cup. If you download
You
Sport,
got a little something on Chris Dangerfield in there as well, some nice pictures and his mullet and all that.
Have you got an Ask VAR aspect of it as well?
Well, the referees, I think you're going to
Yeah,
do something for referees as well, right? Is
that's
that
what you need.
yeah,
planning?
referee IQ.
Yeah, was it correct? See, this is all very fascinating, and I think that the connection between the Silicon Valley AI, the future technologies, as you're trying to brand it into the game, is very interesting. And we really thank you today for being one of our guests on a game on Silicon Valley, and I hope you've enjoyed it. We certainly enjoyed you having you as part of the program.
And I'm just going to add one other aspect here. I think the coaching element is great when you have a picture of the coach and the coach is talking, and like a live interaction with the actual coach, that might benefit the program. I only share this as a lead-in because our next guest is going to be presenting virtual educators perhaps, but certainly virtual athletes and important people in a different element of AI as we bring that to the Silicon Valley and to games on Silicon Valley. So, hey, Chris, or sorry, Sid, really appreciate it. Chris, always a pleasure to work with you.
Thanks, bud.
Look forward to our next engagement. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, John Eric. Thank you.